Hi everyone, good day. Welcome back to our next video. In this video, we will discuss about the looping statements in C. Let's get started. Looping or iteration is a process of repeating the same set of statements again and again until some specified condition. The three looping or iteration statements are while statement, do while statement and for statement. The loops can be either a counter control loop or sentinel control loop. What is a counter control loop? It is a form of looping in which the number of iterations to be performed is known in advance. They use a control variable known as loop counter to keep track of the loop iterations. Since this loop iterate for a fixed number of time, this is known in advance. They are also known as definite repetition loop. In sentinel control loops, the number of times the iteration is to be performed is not known in advance. The execution or termination of the loop depends upon a specific value called the sentinel value. If this value is true, the body of the loop will be executed. It is called as indefinite repetition loop because the number of times the loop is going to be iterated is not known in advance. Let us discuss about while statement, do while statement and for statement in detail with the example. First is the while statement. The syntax of while statement. It has a while header which includes the test condition followed by the body of the loop. The test condition is evaluated. If it evaluates to true, the body of the loop is executed. If it evaluates to false, the program control is transferred to the statement present next to the while statement. The loop is executed until condition becomes false. If we see the flowchart, we can clearly see we have a test condition which is evaluated, and if it is true, it will go to the code block. Otherwise, it will go to the next statement after the while. Based on the position of this test condition in a loop, the loop can be called as an entry control loop or exit control loop. So if you see in the while statement, the test condition is present in the entry of the loop. So the condition is checked first, and only if the condition is satisfied, the body of the loop will be executed. So we call the while statement as an entry control loop. While statement can be used as a counter control loop. So the three main requirements of a counter control loop are initialization of the loop counter variable, increment or decrement of the loop counter variable, and a test condition to determine whether the loop body should be executed or not. So these three are the important requirements for any loop. Either it is a while loop, do while loop or for loop. These three things should be present in the looping statement. So where it is present is how they differ. So if you see here, the while statement, initialization of the loop counter variable is given outside the while statement. Before you start the while statement, we initialize the loop counter variable. The increment or decrement of the loop counter variable is given inside the body of the loop. So in the set of statements, one of the statement will be the increment or the decrement statement, which helps in running the loop. The third is the test condition, which is present in the header of the loop. So it will determine whether the body of the loop has to be executed or not. So these are the three main requirements in a looping statement. Next is the do while loop. The syntax for do while loop. So first we have the do keyword followed by the body of the loop. At the end of the body of the loop only we have the test condition. It is given at the exit of the do while loop. So it is called as an exit control loop. If you see here how it is different from the while loop. The while loop, initially the test condition is evaluated and only when it is true, it will execute the body of the loop. Whereas in do while loop, the body of the loop will be executed at least once first and then only it will test the condition. If the condition is true, again it will continue with the body of the loop. When the condition becomes false, it will come out of the loop. So since the test condition is present at the exit, we call it as an exit control loop. The flowchart clearly explains this concept. So we have the code block which is executed first before checking any condition. So after that, once it is executed, then only it goes and checks for the condition. So when the condition is true, again it will go to the code block. When the condition is false, it will go to the next statement after the do while block. So here, similar to the while loop, we have three things. Initialization of the loop counter variable, the increment or the decrement operation, and the test condition. So here the loop counter variable I initialize outside the do while loop. The increment or the decrement will be available inside the code block, and the test condition is present at the bottom of the do while loop. is the for statement. For is also an entry control loop, which means the test condition will be present in the entry of the loop itself. See the syntax for loop. We have the for header. It consists of the keyword for followed by the three main requirements for any counter control loop. So initialization, condition, increment or decrement. So all these three are present in the for header itself, followed by the body of the loop. So this is how for statement is different from the while loop or do while loop. In for, all the three requirements are present in the for header itself. Here we call it as entry control loop because once after initializing the value, it will test the condition. Only if it is true, it will go inside the for loop. Otherwise, it will go to the next statement after the for loop. In for loop, the initialization section is executed only once at the start of the loop. Then the test condition is evaluated. If it is true, the body of the loop is executed, else the loop terminates. After the execution of the body of the loop, the increment or decrement operation is done. Let us discuss an example for while statement, do while statement and for statement. Example. So this is a simple program that displays the first n natural numbers. So if I give n value as 10, it will print the first 10 natural numbers starting from 1. So 1 to 10 it will be displayed. So the same program we can modify for all three loops, while loop, do while loop and for loop. So we can see how the same program it works for while loop, do while loop and for loop. As you already know that these looping statements must have three important things. The initialization. So here we have initialized I. So I is considered to be the loop counter variable. So we have initialized the I value as 1. Then the test condition which is available in the while header. So I is less than or equal to n. Then the increment or the decrement operation which helps in moving the while loop. So here the increment operation or the decrement operation will be provided inside the while block, code block. So here I is equal to I plus 1, we are performing a increment operation. So these are the three main requirements for any loop, whether it is a while loop, do while loop or for loop. So these three things are required. So we have to initialize the counter variable, loop counter variable, which is responsible for running the loop. Then we have to give the test condition and then we have to perform the increment or the decrement operation. So here while loop is an entry controlled loop. We call it as entry controlled because the test conditions are checked before entering into the loop. So in the entry point itself, we check the test condition. Only when it is true, we go inside the code block. Otherwise, it will go to the next statement after the while. So now I will run the program. So you can see the output. So here we are printing from I value 1 to 10. So the first n natural numbers. So you may think why we need a loop. Like say here, when I say first 10 natural numbers, then it is okay. Even I can give 10 printf statement, I need not use a while loop. Suppose if I want to print 1000 natural numbers, then it is not possible for me to give 1000 printf statements to print the 1000 natural numbers. So in such cases, I repeat the same statement again and again. So if I say 1000 printf statements, so I am using 1000 printf statements to print the first 1000 natural numbers. So it is a repetitive task. So I will be using, when I am using loop, I just replace these 1000 statements by a single statement and loop and put it inside a loop. So the same program I will modify for do while. So do while is the exit controlled loop. So first I will give do and the while test condition will come at the bottom of the code block. So do while is the exit control loop, which means that the code block will be executed without checking any test condition. So then only while it is exiting from the loop only it will check for the test condition. So the same program we can modify. So do while. Now I will run the program. So we will clear the output and run the program so that you can see the output clearly. So now you can see we are getting the output as the first 10 natural numbers. I is equal to 1 to, since we have given the input as 10, we are getting I from 1 to 10. Now we can modify the same program for loop. So in for loop, all the three requirements are available in the for header itself. So the initialization, test condition and increment or decrement should be given in the for header itself. So we can give the for header like this. So for initialization I is equal to 1, condition I less than or equal to n, I plus plus. So I plus plus is the increment operator, which means I is equal to I plus 1. So we will remove I is equal to 1 and I is equal to I plus 1 as it is already given in the for header. So this is the only change we are going to do. So now let's run the program. So you can see so we'll clear the output and run the program. You can see the output. Again, we are printing the first 10 natural numbers. So here for is entry control loop. So like while loop, for is entry control loop. So it will test the condition before entering the code block. Only if the condition is true, it will go inside the code block. So otherwise, it will come out of the for loop. When the condition becomes false, it will come out of the for loop. So once the code block is finished executing, before going for the next test condition, it will do the increment or the decrement operation. So for the initialization is done only once. So at the beginning of the execution of the loop, then the test conditions are checked for every loop. So in for loop, it is the entry control. It will check the condition and then only it will go inside the code block. Finally, it will do the increment or the decrement operation. So this is how the for loop works. In this video, we discussed about the looping statements. In our next video, we will discuss about arrays in C. Hope this video was useful to you. Kindly like, share and subscribe the video. We will meet in the next video. Thank you.